Imagine inviting hackers to your computer. But no, not to steal your data. Instead, this time we are going to be setting a trap for them. Now that is exactly what I did. I purchased a server or a VPS from a cloud provider and set up something known as a honeypot on the server. Now I willingly put this server on the internet to trap hackers and to learn more about their techniques and activities on the server. So make sure you keep watching till the end to not miss anything and to see what we get to know about these hackers. But first, let's address the elephant in the room. What even is a honeypot and why should you care? A honeypot in cybersecurity is like a sacrificial computer or a decoy which is set up to entice hackers. It is set up to look like an attractive target filled with fake data and vulnerability. In this video, I'll be setting up more than 10 honeypots and exposing them on the internet to attract the attention of these hackers. Here's a disclaimer before we begin. The aim of this video is to educate my viewers, and any demonstration of tools is solely for educational purposes. So while we are here to have a bit of fun and to learn a thing or two about honeypots, let's do so ethically and responsibly. So to set up a honeypot today, we'll be using a tool called as tpot. Tpot describes itself as an all-in-one multi-honeypot platform. It supports more than 20 honeypots, which is brilliant. Now to run a honeypot, we'll need a server. So for that, we'll be jumping to DigitalOcean as the cloud provider to set up a server for us. You could use the referral link in the description below to set up your account. What I want you to do is click on spin up a droplet. Now for region, you could choose any region you want. I would go for Amsterdam over here for no apparent reason. Near the choose an image section, select Debian and select Debian 11 x64 and scroll down. So we'll use the basic plan. We need to go in for this plan over here, $48 per month. Now this part is important. Now for authentication method, I'll advise you to select SSH key instead of password based authentication because it's kind of more secure. So it's pretty easy to spin up a new SSH key. You can simply click on new SSH key and follow the steps mentioned over here. And we scroll down and leave everything as it is and just click on create droplet. Now that our server is up and running, we'll be installing tpot on it. Once you set up your machine, you will get an IP address assigned to you. You can copy this IP address over here and open your command line, and I want you to SSH into it. So SSH root @ the IP address. Now you'll be logged in into a Debian machine. Now we go back to the tpot GitHub repo and we scroll down to get and install tpot section. So the first thing it says is we need to clone this repository and execute the install.sh script. Now we'll go ahead and create a new user for us. So we use the add user command, add user and the username which we are creating. So I'll just name it tpot-user and we hit enter. We need to enter the password here. So once that's done, you just hit enter and get done with it. What we also need to do is we need to add this user to the sudoers group. We use the user mod command. So user mod space -a capital G, the group name which is sudo and the username which is tpot user. Now we simply switch to this user. Now we are all set to install tpot. So we copy this line over here and paste it. Once this is done, we navigate to the tpot folder. Once we in the tpot-ce directory, we simply need to run the install.sh script. For that, we type /install.sh and we hit enter. Just follow the prompts and type in the password once it asks for it. Now the script will do its magic and install tpot for us and set up everything what's needed. You'll get this prompt over here which asks you for the type of tpot you want to install. We type h and we hit enter. Now we need to set a web username for the dashboard which we will be accessing later. You could enter a username over here and now we enter the password. Once that's done, tpot will start pulling and setting up all the different types of honeypots on our machine. Alright, when you get the screen over here, it means your installation was successful. If you go through the tpot GitHub repo and read through the documentation, you'll know that there is also an SSH honeypot which gets set up on port 22. So SSH by default runs on port 22. What tpot will do is it will run the honeypot or the fake SSH on port 22, and for us to take SSH of our real server, we'll need to connect to it through port 64295. So now what we'll do is we'll reboot this machine. So sudo reboot. Now we try to connect to the same machine, and this time we set the flag -p with the port number which they had mentioned, 64295. 5. We hit enter. Once you've SSH'd into the machine, what I want you to do is switch back to the tpot user which we had created previously. Now we check if the tpot service is running or not. So service tpot status, we see it's running. Now there is a command called as dps. We write dps and hit enter. Now this command basically gives us a status of all the honeypots which are running and if they are up or not. In the required ports section, they've given an explanation of all the ports which are open and which are needed by tpot. So if we look at port number 64297, it says that the tpot management access is hosted on this port. So what we'll do is we will copy the IP address over here and we type https and paste the IP address and we visit the 64297 port. Now this will give you a pop-up for username and password. Now if you remember, we had set a web user and password for our tpot management console. So we enter those credentials over here and there you go, there's our tpot management console. So if we click on attack map, it will take us to the live attack map. It has not even been 5 minutes and we've already started getting hits on our Honeypot server. We are getting hits from the United States, China, South Korea, Germany, etc. We'll come back to this later. What I want you to do is an important step. Now of course we want hackers to come in and try to hack the honeypots which we've put up on the internet, but we of course need to stop them from accessing the real SSH which runs on a different port and the management interface. Now if we come to the GitHub repo of tpot and go to the system placement section, it says that allowing access to ports greater than 64,000 only from trusted IPs. So let's just go to our server and stop the tpot service while we set up these firewall rules. So service tpot stop. In the DigitalOcean dashboard, we will need to click on the machine over here and go to the networking section. Now if you scroll down, you'll see the firewall section. What I want you to do is I want you to click on edit and click on create firewall. Now we need to set ports which are greater than 64,000 to 65535. Now in source, what I want you to do is in a new tab, go to Google and type what's my IP. Open the first website. This is your IP address. So copy this and paste it over here. Click on add as an address. So once you've set up a firewall rule for your public IP address, we go back to the Debian machine and we start the tpot service. So we do DPS again and we see that all our honeypots are up and running. So if you're following along, congrats to you because the honeypot has been set up successfully. Now comes the real test of patience. We gotta leave a honeypot open for a while. It's like a buffet for hackers. It's currently 2:55 from where I am. I'm gonna leave the honeypots open out in the wild and come back to this tomorrow and see what we get.
One day later.
Alright guys, we are back. It is 6:52 PM. We've left the honeypot open for well over the 12-hour mark. Let's go to the attack map and see what kind of trouble we've attracted. Honestly, this map is pretty cool. It visualizes the data as it is happening, but we want to dig deep. What we'll do is we will go back to the management interface and open Kibana. Once we open Kibana, we'll see a bunch of different dashboards of the different honeypots we've set up. Let's go back to the tpot GitHub repo. Try to look at the Cowrie Honeypot, for example. It says that Cowrie is a medium to high interaction SSH and telnet honeypot designed to log brute force attacks and the shell interaction performed by the attacker. So basically it will log all the credentials attackers brute force, and once they log in onto the honeypot, we will see all the commands which they've executed. Let's also look at another honeypot, the DDOSpot over here. DDOSpot is a honeypot platform for tracking and monitoring UDP based distributed denial of service DDoS attacks. We will be looking at these two honeypots today and their dashboards. Okay, enough chit chatting. Let's see what our Cowrie honeypot has got. So this is what the Cowrie dashboard looks like, and honestly, all these dashboards what I've gone through, they are nothing but treasure maps for us. I mean, just look at all this data. There's an attack map over here which gives you the live data from where the attacks are generated. We can see the most popular username and passwords which were used by these hackers. And looks like these folks, as expected, have stuck to the admin and root username as well as this numeric password right here. But now let's actually get down to business and look at the commands which were executed by these attackers once they got access of this honeypot. The command section honestly is interesting. It shows us what these attackers tried to do once they got in, or at least they thought they got in. We can see the uname command over here, which gives us details of the machine which is running. Some people have tried to look up the cron table, and a lot of them have tried a bunch of different random commands which are piped together. I'm sure there's a meaning behind this, and they must be trying for an already existing known vulnerability or CV out there. Let's jump to the DDOSpot dashboard. So we see that there have been around 3,600 attacks logged by the DDOSpot Honeypot. This map gives us a good view of the attacks happening around the globe. So if we scroll down, we'll see that port 53, on which DNS runs by default, is attacked the most. Majority of these attacks have come from Turkey as well as United States. Towards the end, you'll see the different IP addresses from which these attacks have generated. Now I want to close all these dashboards and go back to Elastic over here. Now what I'm interested in looking at is going to analytics and clicking on discover. So let's actually run through this data and see if we can find something interesting. Let's see if since last night any of these hackers have tried to run the curl command. So we need to use another filter called event ID and use the cowrie.command.input value. We are basically telling it search inside Cowrie Honeypot, and we do get 3 results. They're basically the same commands over here. So right here is the command which was executed. If I copy this and open it inside Sublime and paste it right here, this command is basically updating the system, and it is asking the system to install the sudo and curl commands. After that is done, it is using the sudo command to add a user. The user's name would be system and its password would be generated using the OpenSSL password command, and this is the value. Let's see what is the OpenSSL password command. So OpenSSL password states that the password command computes the hash of a password typed at runtime or the hash of each password in a list. So it's basically calculating the hash of this password right here and setting it as the password. And it is also adding this user to the sudoers group. So this basically gives it sudo access or admin access over this honeypot. This has been run 3 times with different values in the password. So this attack came from the Netherlands, and if we copy the value over here and paste it over here, set this as JSON. So if we scroll down, we see this is the IP address which was used. So this IP address doesn't necessarily have to belong to the attacker. What could be happening behind the scenes is the attacker could have used a VPN if this was a manual attack, but it doesn't look like a manual attack. So this may well be an automated attack which was generated by an attacker. But what we can do is we can go to VirusTotal and analyze the reputation of this IP address. So we paste this IP address, and we see that it does have a bad reputation from quite a few different antivirus engines, and it does look like this IP address is detected in a lot of port scans. So this is a rabbit hole we shouldn't get into, but you get the gist. So these few logs over here give us an idea of what this attacker from this IP address has tried to do, from the commands which were executed to this IP's reputation. I think we got a decent breakdown of what was happening over here. And honestly, this is just a glimpse of the power of honeypots. We used VirusTotal. You could also use Google to your advantage in finding more information about a particular IP address or the commands which we use. In case you want to learn more about how to use Google to your advantage along with other OSINT techniques, I already have a OSINT video which is out there. I highly advise you to go and watch it. You should get the link in the description or in the I section above. If you like the video, drop a like. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, because honestly there will be a lot of these videos which will be coming out. So if you're a beginner, or if you're interested in cybersecurity, or you're already in cybersecurity, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Make sure you also hit the bell icon.